Power isn't given. It's taken. And if you don't take it, someone else will. Right now, as you're watching this, someone in your life is playing a game you don't even know exists. They're reading you, studying you, waiting for the perfect moment to make their move. And you're playing checkers while they're 3 steps ahead in chess. But what if I told you that the rules of this game were written over 500 years ago? By a man who understood power so deeply that his name became synonymous with manipulation itself. Niccolò Machiavelli didn't just write about power. He dissected it. He exposed the uncomfortable truths that everyone knows but nobody says out loud. Today, you're going to learn those truths. The 8 brutal lessons that separate those who lead from those who follow. Those who shape reality from those who simply react to it. But here's my warning, once you see these patterns, you can't unsee them. Once you understand how power really works, you'll recognize it everywhere. In your workplace. In your relationships. In every conversation you have. Before we begin, I need you to understand something crucial. This knowledge is a weapon. And like any weapon, it can be used to protect or to destroy. Choose wisely. Now drop this affirmation in the comments. I will master power, not be mastered by it. Let's dive in. Truth number 1, the mask of virtue. Machiavelli wrote, "It is not necessary for a prince to have all the good qualities, but it is very necessary to appear to have them." Let that sink in for a moment that he's not saying be evil. He's saying something far more nuanced and far more important. Perception shapes reality. Look around you. The people with real power aren't the ones constantly advertising their virtues. They're the ones who understand that reputation is a tool, not a trophy. Think about the most successful people you know. I'm not talking about social media influencers with rented cars. I'm talking about people with genuine influence. People who make things happen. They don't post inspirational quotes every morning. They don't need to convince you they're good people. Their actions speak, but more importantly, their strategic silence speaks even louder. Here's what most people get wrong. They think authenticity means showing everything. Every emotion. Every thought. Every struggle. That's not authenticity. That's amateur hour. Real authenticity is knowing who you are but being selective about what you show and when you show it. You don't walk into a job interview and immediately talk about your weaknesses. You don't enter a negotiation by revealing your desperation. The mask of virtue isn't about lying. It's about strategic presentation. Let me give you a practical example. Imagine 2 managers in the same company. Both are equally skilled. Manager A is brutally honest. When projects fail, they publicly blame their team. When they're stressed, everyone knows it. When they disagree with upper management, they say so loudly. Manager B is strategically diplomatic. When projects fail, they take public responsibility but privately address individual issues. When they're stressed, they maintain composure in front of their team. When they disagree with upper management, they present alternative solutions with data. Both managers might have the exact same thoughts and feelings. But Manager B understands the mask of virtue. They understand that how you present yourself determines how much power people are willing to give you. This applies to every interaction you have. When someone asks, "How are you?" they're not really asking. They're engaging in a social ritual. The person who responds with a 5-minute monologue about their problems doesn't understand the game. But the person who says, "I'm well, thank you. How about you?" and moves the conversation forward. They understand that every interaction is an opportunity to either build or diminish your social capital. Now, here's where this gets deeper. The mask of virtue also protects you from unnecessary enemies. Machiavelli understood that expressing every opinion, defending every principle, and fighting every battle makes you exhausting to be around. More importantly, it makes you predictable and vulnerable. When you appear agreeable and virtuous, people lower their guard around you. They share information they wouldn't share otherwise. They reveal their true intentions. They show you their cards. This doesn't mean being fake. This means being smart enough to choose your battles and strategic enough to control your image. The most powerful people in history understood this principle perfectly. They cultivated reputations that served their goals. They appeared generous while calculating their moves. They seemed humble while building empires. Your homework for this principle, for the next week, practice strategic presentation. Before reacting emotionally to any situation, pause and ask yourself, what response serves my long-term interests here? Not what feels good in the moment. Not what makes you look tough or smart right now. What actually moves you closer to your goals. Master the mask, and you've taken your first step toward real power. Truth number 2, fear versus love. Here's one of Machiavelli's most controversial statements: it is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. Before you recoil at that, let me explain what he actually meant. Machiavelli wasn't advocating for cruelty. He was making a cold observation about human nature. Love is conditional and changeable, but fear is consistent and reliable. Think about it honestly. How many times have you done something because you loved someone versus how many times you've done something because you feared the consequences of not doing it? People want to believe that love is enough. That being kind and generous will naturally earn loyalty and respect. But Machiavelli understood a harder truth: people are primarily motivated by their own interests. When those interests align with loving you, great. But what happens when they don't? This is where fear enters the equation. Not the fear of physical harm, but the fear of consequences. The fear of losing something valuable. The fear of damaging a relationship that benefits them. Let me show you how this plays out in real life. Imagine a boss who is beloved by their team. They're friendly, understanding, and rarely enforce deadlines or standards. Everyone loves working for them. But when crunch time comes and difficult decisions need to be made, their team doesn't take them seriously. Projects get delayed. Standards slip. Why? Because there are no real consequences. Now imagine a different leader. They're professional, fair, and clear about expectations. They're not cruel, but they're not your friend either. When they set a deadline, everyone knows it matters. When they provide feedback, people listen. Why? Because there are consequences for not performing. Which leader has more real power? Which one actually gets better results? The second leader understands what Machiavelli meant. They've cultivated respect mixed with healthy concern. Not through cruelty, but through consistency and clear boundaries. Here's the nuance that most people miss. Machiavelli wasn't saying you should be hated. He specifically warned against being hated. What he advocated for was being respected and slightly feared rather than being loved and taken for granted. In your personal relationships, this principle still applies. The people who respect you most aren't the ones you've been endlessly nice to. They're the ones who know you have boundaries and will enforce them. The friend who never says no becomes the friend nobody respects. The partner who tolerates everything becomes the partner who gets taken advantage of. The parent who never sets limits raises children who don't respect authority. This isn't about being mean. It's about being strong enough to enforce standards. Think about the most respected figures in your life. Your best teacher probably wasn't the easiest one. Your most influential mentor probably didn't coddle you. The family member you respect most probably didn't let you get away with nonsense. They combined genuine care with clear boundaries. They were supportive but not permissive. They were kind but not weak. That's the balance Machiavelli was describing. Not choosing between being a tyrant or a pushover, but understanding that real influence requires being someone that others respect enough to think twice before crossing. Now let's talk about the practical application. How do you implement this without becoming someone you don't want to be? First, establish clear boundaries in all your relationships. What behaviors are acceptable? What crosses the line? Once you know your boundaries, communicate them clearly and enforce them consistently. Second, follow through on your commitments and your warnings. If you say you'll do something, do it. If you say there will be consequences, there must be consequences. Inconsistency destroys respect faster than anything else. Third, be fair but firm. People can accept strictness if they believe it's applied fairly. What they can't accept is arbitrary cruelty or favoritism. Fourth, never make threats you won't follow through on. Empty threats train people to ignore you. If you're not willing to enforce a boundary, don't set it in the first place. The goal isn't to be feared in the sense of being terrifying. The goal is to be respected enough that people take you seriously. That when you speak, people listen. That when you set expectations, people meet them. Master this balance, and you'll find that your influence grows exponentially. Not because people are afraid of you, but because they know you're someone who means what they say. Truth number 3, the art of calculated cruelty. This is going to be the most controversial truth, so listen carefully. Machiavelli wrote, "Cruelties should be committed all at once, in order not to have to repeat them every day, and so as to be able to reassure people and win them over by benefiting them." Your first reaction might be disgust. But before you judge, understand what he's really saying. He's not advocating for cruelty for its own sake. He's making a cold observation: sometimes difficult decisions must be made, and when they must be made, it's more merciful to act decisively than to drag out the pain. Let me give you modern examples that will make this clear. Imagine a company that's struggling financially. They need to cut costs, which means layoffs are inevitable. They have two options. Option A, lay off 10% of the workforce every quarter for a year. Each time, people wonder if they're next. Morale is destroyed. Productivity plummets. Everyone is constantly looking for new jobs. The company bleeds talent and trust. Option B, make all necessary cuts at once. It's painful. It's traumatic. But it's done. Then the company can focus on recovery, reassure the remaining employees that they're safe, and rebuild, which approach is actually more humane. Option B, despite being more immediately painful, causes less total suffering. That's what Machiavelli meant by calculated cruelty. When difficult actions are necessary, do them swiftly and completely. Don't torture people with uncertainty and drawn-out pain. This principle applies to personal situations too. Breaking up with someone you know isn't right for you. Don't do it gradually over months with on-again, off-again drama. Make a clean break. It hurts more immediately, but it allows both people to move on faster. Need to fire someone who isn't performing? Don't give them endless, one more chances that everyone knows are meaningless. Have the difficult conversation, make it clean, and move forward. Have a toxic friend who keeps hurting you? Don't keep going back for more. Cut ties clearly and completely. The pattern here is about decisiveness. Most people avoid difficult decisions because they're uncomfortable. They prefer slow, drawn-out pain over quick, decisive action. But this cowardice actually causes more suffering for everyone involved. Now, here's the critical ethical component. This principle only applies when the difficult action is genuinely necessary and serves a greater good. Machiavelli wasn't advocating random cruelty or cruelty for personal gain. He was saying that when you must act against someone's interests for legitimate reasons, do it efficiently and completely. The key word here is must. Before applying this principle, you need to be absolutely certain that the action is necessary. That you've exhausted better alternatives. That the outcome justifies the cost. But once you've determined that the action is necessary, hesitation becomes cruelty. Dragging it out doesn't make you kind. It makes you weak and increases the total suffering. Think about a surgeon. When they need to remove something harmful from your body, they don't do it slowly over months. They do it in one operation. It's painful and traumatic, but it's the most merciful approach because it minimizes total suffering and allows for faster healing. That's the mindset you need when applying this principle. Another aspect of calculated cruelty is this: after making the difficult decision, you immediately shift to building and benefiting people. Going back to the layoff example, after making necessary cuts, the company should immediately focus on supporting remaining employees, clarifying the path forward, and rebuilding trust. The cruelty was necessary, but it should be followed immediately by generosity and reassurance. This is what Machiavelli meant when he said cruelties should be committed at once so as to be able to reassure people and win them over by benefiting them. Make the difficult decision. Make it completely. Then immediately shift your focus to healing and building. Your homework: identify one difficult decision you've been postponing because it's uncomfortable. Not something cruel or unnecessary, but something you know needs to happen and you've been avoiding. Make a plan to handle it decisively and completely. Then execute that plan and immediately shift to rebuilding and benefiting the people affected as much as possible. This is what separates leaders from followers. Leaders are willing to make difficult decisions when necessary. Followers avoid discomfort and let problems fester. Truth number 4, adaptability over rigidity. Machiavelli observed, "A prudent man should always follow in the path trodden by great men and imitate those who are most excellent, so that if he does not attain to their greatness, at any rate he will get some tinge of it." But he also warned, "I conclude that fortune changes and men remain fixed in their ways. They are successful so long as there is harmony between them, and unsuccessful when there is discord." Translation: the world changes constantly, but most people stay rigid. That rigidity destroys them. This might be Machiavelli's most important lesson for the modern world. Look at the most successful people and organizations throughout history. They all share one characteristic: they adapted to changing circumstances while others clung to outdated methods. Blockbuster refused to adapt to streaming. They had the chance to buy Netflix for $50 million and rejected it. Now Blockbuster is gone and Netflix is worth over $150 billion. Kodak invented the digital camera but refused to cannibalize their film business. Now they're irrelevant while digital photography dominates. Nokia dominated mobile phones but failed to adapt to smartphones. Apple and Samsung left them in the dust. The pattern is clear: adaptability beats stubbornness every single time. But this isn't just about companies. It's about you as an individual. How many people do you know who are stuck in careers they hate because, "That's what I went to school for"? How many people stay in toxic relationships because, "We've been together so long"? How many people use outdated methods because, "That's how I've always done it"? Rigidity is a slow death. Adaptability is survival. Machiavelli understood this perfectly. He watched leaders rise and fall based on their ability to read changing circumstances and adjust accordingly. The leader who was ruthless when firmness was needed and diplomatic when cooperation was required. They survived. The leader who was always ruthless or always diplomatic. They failed when circumstances changed. Here's how to apply this in your life. First, constantly reassess your methods and beliefs. Just because something worked in the past doesn't mean it works now. The world is different than it was 5 years ago. You need to be different too. Ask yourself regularly, is this approach still serving me? Or am I doing it this way simply because I've always done it this way? Second, study the environment before taking action. Machiavelli emphasized the importance of understanding the current moment. What works in one situation fails in another. What succeeds in one era flops in another. Before making any significant decision, analyze the current landscape. What are the prevailing conditions? What are people responding to? What opportunities exist right now that didn't exist before? Third, be willing to contradict your past self. Too many people treat consistency as a virtue even when it becomes a liability. "I've always been this way" is not a badge of honor. It's an admission that you've stopped growing. The most powerful people I know have completely reinvented themselves multiple times throughout their lives. They've changed careers, changed approaches, changed philosophies based on new information and changed circumstances. They're not hypocrites. They're adapters. Fourth, develop multiple skills and multiple identities. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't define yourself by one role or one method. Machiavelli advised rulers to be both a lion and a fox. The lion uses strength and intimidation. The fox uses cunning and deception. A wise leader knows when to be which animal. You need the same versatility. Sometimes your situation calls for directness and force. Sometimes it calls for subtlety and patience. If you can only do one, you'll fail half the time. This extends to your skills. Don't just be good at one thing. Develop diverse capabilities. Learn multiple trades. Build various income streams. Create different options for yourself. Why? Because when circumstances change, and they always do, you'll have alternatives. The person with one skill and one approach is vulnerable. The person with multiple skills and adaptive thinking is resilient. Fifth, watch for signals that your current approach is failing and be quick to pivot. Most people see warning signs and ignore them. They rationalize. They make excuses. They double down on failing strategies because they've already invested so much. This is called the sunk cost fallacy, and it destroys people. Smart people cut their losses quickly. They recognize when something isn't working and they change course immediately. They don't let ego or past investment trap them in losing positions. Finally, learn from everyone, including your enemies. Machiavelli studied successful leaders regardless of their moral character. He extracted lessons from tyrants and saints alike. You should do the same. Don't dismiss someone's methods just because you don't like them personally. Don't ignore successful strategies just because they come from unexpected sources. The question isn't, do I like this person? The question is, what can I learn from their success? Adaptability isn't about having no principles. It's about being flexible in your methods while remaining firm in your ultimate goals. Your values can be fixed. Your identity can be stable. But your strategies must evolve or you'll become obsolete. Truth number 5, the illusion of choice. Machiavelli wrote, "Men are so simple and yield so readily to the desires of the moment that he who will trick will always find another who will suffer to be tricked." This sounds cynical, but it's actually liberating once you understand it. People don't want unlimited choices. They want to feel like they're making choices while being guided toward good decisions. The most powerful people don't force their will on others. They create situations where others choose what the powerful person wanted all along. Let me show you how this works. Imagine you want your team to adopt a new process. You have two approaches. Approach A, we're implementing this new process starting Monday. Here's how it works. Approach B, we're facing this challenge. I've researched some options. Here are 3 possibilities. What do you all think would work best? In approach B, you've already eliminated bad options. The 3 choices you're presenting all lead to your desired outcome, but with minor variations. Your team feels consulted and empowered. They choose one of your options, believing it was their decision. This is the illusion of choice, and it's everywhere once you start noticing it. Restaurants design menus to guide you toward high-profit items. They don't force you to order them, but through placement, descriptions, and pricing strategies, they make those items most attractive. Politicians don't tell you what to think. They frame debates so that the only reasonable positions happen to align with their agenda. Skilled negotiators don't demand what they want. They structure negotiations so that giving them what they want feels like the natural, logical choice. This isn't manipulation in the harmful sense. It's leadership. It's understanding that people need guidance but resist being controlled. Here's how to apply this principle ethically. First, when you want someone to do something, don't command it unless absolutely necessary. Instead, present it as a choice between good options. Do this task becomes, would you prefer to handle this task now or after lunch? Both options involve them doing the task, but framing it as a choice increases buy-in and reduces resistance. Second, when presenting ideas, present them alongside clearly inferior alternatives. If you want your proposal approved, don't just present your proposal. Present 3 options: your actual proposal, an obviously too expensive option, and an obviously insufficient option. Your actual proposal suddenly looks perfect by comparison. The choice feels obvious, but it was your design all along. Third, let people feel ownership over decisions that don't really matter while you maintain control over decisions that do. In relationships, let your partner choose the restaurant while you choose the neighborhood. They feel empowered by their choice, but you've already constrained their options to acceptable ones. In business, let your team choose how to implement your strategy while you define what the strategy is. They feel autonomous, but you've set the parameters. Fourth, use questions instead of statements to lead people to your conclusion. Instead of saying, we should do X, ask, what would happen if we did X? What problems would that solve? Guide them through reasoning that leads to your conclusion. When they arrive at it themselves, they'll defend it more vigorously than if you had simply told them. This is Socratic method applied to modern persuasion. Fifth, understand that people don't want responsibility for difficult decisions, but they want credit for good outcomes. When you need to make an unpopular but necessary decision, make it yourself and take the heat. When there's an opportunity for a popular, rewarding decision, involve others and share the credit. This builds loyalty while maintaining your authority. Machiavelli understood that humans are paradoxical creatures. We want freedom but crave guidance. We want choice but fear responsibility. We want power but avoid accountability. The person who understands these paradoxes can navigate social situations with incredible effectiveness. But here's the ethical line: the illusion of choice should lead people toward outcomes that benefit them, not just you. If you're using this technique to manipulate people into decisions that harm them for your benefit, you're not being Machiavellian, you're being a con artist. True Machiavellian leadership means guiding people toward decisions that serve both their interests and yours. Creating win-win situations where everyone feels they chose the outcome freely. Your homework: next time you need someone to do something, don't ask directly. Instead, present it as a choice between two acceptable options. Notice how compliance increases when people feel they're choosing rather than being commanded. Master the illusion of choice, and you'll find that people gladly do what you want while believing it was their idea all along. Truth number 6, proximity to power. Machiavelli observed, from this arises the question whether it is better to be loved rather than feared, or feared rather than loved. But above all, one should avoid being despised and hated. But he also wrote something less famous but equally important: the first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him. Your proximity to power determines your power. It doesn't matter how talented you are in isolation. It matters who you know, who knows you, and who's willing to advocate for you when you're not in the room. This is the truth that nobody wants to admit but everyone secretly knows. The mediocre person with powerful connections will outperform the brilliant person working alone almost every time. Why? Because power doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's a network phenomenon. It's about relationships, access, and influence. Think about how careers actually progress. Rarely is it pure meritocracy. More often, it's someone getting an opportunity because they knew someone who recommended them. The promotion goes to the person the boss knows and trusts, not always the person with the best credentials. The investment goes to the startup with connections to successful founders, not always the one with the best product. The book deal goes to the writer with an existing platform, not always the one with the best manuscript. This isn't corruption. This is how human systems work. We trust people we know or who are vouched for by people we trust. Machiavelli understood that your power is directly proportional to your proximity to existing power centers. So how do you build this proximity? First, identify the power centers in your field or environment. Who makes decisions? Who has influence? Who do people listen to? Don't waste time networking with everyone. Focus on the people who actually matter to your goals. Second, provide value before asking for anything. Too many people approach powerful individuals with their hand out, asking for favors and opportunities. Instead, ask yourself, what can I offer this person that they actually value? Maybe it's information they don't have. Maybe it's a skill they need. Maybe it's solving a problem they're facing. Maybe it's just being competent and reliable in a world where that's surprisingly rare. Give first. Generously and without immediate expectation. Build a reputation as someone who adds value. Third, understand that proximity requires strategic positioning. You need to be where powerful people are. If you want to be in tech, move to where tech happens. If you want to be in finance, be where finance happens. If you want to be in entertainment, be where entertainment happens. Physical proximity still matters in a digital world. The opportunities, the conversations, the random encounters that change everything, they happen in specific places. Fourth, make yourself useful to gatekeepers. Every powerful person has gatekeepers, assistants, and right-hand people who control access. Most people ignore or disrespect these individuals. Smart people recognize that gatekeepers have enormous influence over who gets opportunities. Treat every person with respect and professionalism, regardless of their title. The assistant you're nice to today might be the executive who remembers you tomorrow. Fifth, join the right groups and communities. Power concentrates in certain organizations, clubs, and networks. Find out where the influential people in your field gather and find ways to be part of those spaces. Professional associations, exclusive clubs, masterminds, advisory boards, yes, some of these require money or achievements to join. That's the point. They're filters that ensure everyone in the room has demonstrated some level of success. Get to that level, then get in the room. Sixth, learn the art of strategic association. Who you're seen with matters almost as much as what you accomplished. If you're consistently in photos with successful people, speaking at events with respected figures, or collaborating with recognized experts, people perceive you as being at that level. This isn't about fame or vanity. It's about social proof. Humans are tribal creatures. We judge people by their associations. Seventh, understand the difference between mentors and sponsors. Mentors give you advice. Sponsors give you opportunities. Most people seek mentorship. Smart people cultivate sponsors, people with power who are willing to use it on your behalf. How do you get sponsors? By being so competent and reliable that powerful people want to be associated with your success. When someone bets on you and you deliver results, you make them look good. They'll bet on you again and bring you bigger opportunities. Eighth, maintain relationships even when you don't need anything. The time to build a network is before you need it. Most people only reach out when they want something. Then they wonder why nobody helps them. Maintain genuine relationships. Check in periodically. Share interesting information. Celebrate others' successes. Be present. When you need something, you'll have a network of people who actually care about your success. Now, here's what this doesn't mean. This doesn't mean being a phony or a social climber who only values people for what they can do for you. That approach fails because people sense inauthenticity immediately. They know when they're being used, and they resent it. The ethical way to build proximity to power is to genuinely respect and learn from successful people while also being someone worthy of their time and attention. Bring your authentic self, but bring your best self. Be genuinely interested in others, but also be genuinely interesting. Machiavelli wasn't advocating for empty social climbing. He was observing that power is relational. Your individual brilliance means nothing if nobody knows about it or can vouch for it. Build proximity to power by being valuable, genuine, and strategically positioned. Over time, you become part of the power structure yourself. Truth number 7, timing is everything. Machiavelli wrote, "A wise man ought always to follow the paths beaten by great men, and to imitate those who have been supreme, so that if his ability does not equal theirs, at least it will savor of it." But perhaps his most subtle observation was about timing. I hold it to be true that fortune is the arbiter of one half of our actions, but that she still leaves us to direct the other half. In other words, circumstances matter as much as capability. The right action at the wrong time fails. The mediocre action at the perfect time succeeds. Timing is the difference between revolutionary and ridiculous. Between genius and fool. Between winning and losing. Think about Steve Jobs. He didn't invent the smartphone. He didn't invent the tablet. He didn't even invent the personal computer. What he did was launch these products at exactly the right moment when technology had advanced enough, when consumer readiness had reached the right level, when economic conditions supported adoption. Microsoft had tablets years before the iPad. They failed because the timing was wrong. Apple waited until the moment was right. This applies to everything. The best relationship advice given at the wrong moment creates resentment. The same advice given when someone is ready to hear it changes their life. the perfect business idea launched too early fails from lack of market readiness. The same idea launched too late fails because competitors have captured the market. The right political message at the wrong cultural moment gets you ignored or attacked. The same message when society is ready creates movements. So how do you develop timing intelligence? First, learn to read the environment before acting. Most people are so focused on their own goals and plans that they don't notice what's happening around them. Develop the habit of environmental scanning. What's changing? What are people talking about? What needs are emerging? What frustrations are building? The person who notices these shifts early can position themselves to take advantage when the moment arrives. Second, understand that there are seasons for different actions. There's a time to push forward aggressively and a time to consolidate and prepare. A time to speak up and a time to observe. A time to take risks and a time to protect what you have. Machiavelli studied how successful rulers knew when to be aggressive and when to be cautious. They didn't have one mode. They adapted to the season they were in your life. Recognize what season you're in. If you're building foundations, don't get frustrated that you're not yet showing massive results. If you're in a growth phase, don't play it safe out of fear. Match your actions to the appropriate season. Third, be patient enough to wait for the right moment but ready enough to act when it arrives. This is the hardest balance. Too much patience becomes paralysis. You wait forever for the perfect moment that never comes. Too much readiness becomes impulsiveness. You act prematurely and waste your opportunity. The key is preparation. Do the work during the waiting period so that when the moment arrives, you can move immediately and decisively. Think of it like surfing. You don't paddle frantically when there are no waves. You don't sit passively when a wave appears. You wait patiently, watching, and when the right wave comes, you paddle hard and commit completely. Fourth, learn to recognize when momentum is building in a particular direction and position yourself ahead of it. Every major shift in society, business, or culture has early indicators. Most people notice these shifts only after they're obvious, which means they've missed the opportunity. Smart people develop the ability to spot trends before they become mainstream. Then they position themselves to benefit when the trend accelerates. This isn't about being trendy. It's about being ahead of the curve. Fifth, understand that there are moments of leverage when your actions have disproportionate impact. In negotiations, there's a moment when the other party is most willing to agree. Push before that moment and they're not ready. Wait too long after that moment and they've reconsidered. In relationships, there are moments when someone is open to feedback and moments when they're defensive. Choose your timing based on their receptivity, not your urgency. In your career, there are moments when asking for a promotion or raise is natural and moments when it's awkward. Learn to recognize the difference. Sixth, recognize when it's time to exit. Knowing when to leave is as important as knowing when to enter. Machiavelli watched leaders who stayed in power too long and destroyed their legacy. He saw strategies that worked brilliantly for a while then became liabilities when circumstances changed. Be willing to walk away from situations, strategies, or even identities that are no longer serving you. Don't cling to the past just because it worked before. The business you started might need to be sold. The career path you chose might need to change. The relationship that was once great might need to end. The belief system that served you well might need updating. Timing means knowing when to hold on and when to let go. Seventh, create your own timing advantages by controlling information flow. When you know something important before others do, you can position yourself advantageously. When you can delay or accelerate certain developments, you can create timing benefits. This isn't about insider trading or unethical information advantages. It's about being proactive about gathering information and strategic about when you act on it. Finally, recognize that some timing is about luck, and you can't control everything. Machiavelli acknowledged that fortune plays a role. You can do everything right and still have bad timing through no fault of your own. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is to improve your timing intelligence enough that you win more often than you lose. Your homework: start keeping a timing journal. When you make decisions, note whether you acted too early, too late, or at about the right time. Review this regularly to improve your timing intuition. pay attention to your wins and losses. But more importantly, analyze your timing. Did you act when the conditions were optimal? Or did impatience or fear throw off your timing? Over time, you'll develop an instinct for the right moment. That instinct is worth more than almost any other skill you can develop. Truth number 8, the power of perceived inevitability. Here's Machiavelli's final and perhaps most profound insight: men judge by the results. Everyone can see what you appear to be, few can touch what you are. But he also wrote, the lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One must therefore be a fox to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten wolves. This final truth ties everything together. Power is maintained not through constant force, but through the perception that your success is inevitable. When people believe your victory is inevitable, they stop fighting you and start joining you. Think about it. Why do political candidates who gain momentum suddenly attract more supporters? Why do successful companies find it easier to hire top talent? Why do people want to befriend those who are already popular? Because humans have a deep instinct to back winners. We want to be on the winning side. We want to associate with success. Machiavelli understood this psychological phenomenon perfectly. The ruler who appears unbeatable rarely has to fight. Their perceived inevitability does the work for them. So how do you create this perception? First, string together visible wins. Small victories build momentum. Each success makes the next success seem more likely. Don't try to hit one massive home run. Build a pattern of consistent achievement that makes people think, this person always succeeds. A consultant who successfully completes 3 projects in a row builds a reputation for reliability. The 4th client hires them assuming success is guaranteed. An entrepreneur who successfully launches 2 businesses builds credibility. Investors assume the 3rd venture will also succeed. Pattern recognition is powerful. Create the pattern of victory. Second, never let people see you completely defeated. Even in setbacks, control the narrative. When things go wrong, and they will, frame it as a temporary setback or a strategic pivot rather than a failure. This isn't about lying. It's about maintaining the perception that you're still in control of your trajectory. Look at how successful people handle failures. They acknowledge what went wrong, extract the lessons, and immediately pivot to what's next. They don't dwell. They don't make excuses. They maintain forward momentum. The perception of inevitability requires that people believe your direction is always forward, even if the path curves. Third, act with supreme confidence even when you're uncertain internally. Machiavelli watched leaders who showed doubt lose their followers instantly. Uncertainty is contagious. If you seem unsure, everyone around you becomes unsure. This doesn't mean being arrogant or dismissive of real problems. It means projecting calm certainty about your ability to handle whatever comes. When a crisis hits, the leader who panics creates chaos. The leader who stays calm and says, "Here's how we handle this," creates stability. Your external confidence becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. People follow confident leaders, which increases the likelihood of success, which validates the confidence. Fourth, eliminate alternatives in people's minds. When you're the only viable option, you become inevitable. In negotiations, the person with the most alternatives has the most power. But the person who makes themselves seem like the only reasonable choice has ultimate power. How do you do this? By being so competent, so reliable, so effective that choosing anyone else seems like an unnecessary risk. When clients think, "I could go with someone else, but why risk it when I know this person delivers?" you've achieved inevitability. Fifth, surround yourself with the appearance of strength. Perception compounds. When people see that successful, competent people choose to work with you, they assume you must be worth working with. When they see that you're constantly busy and in demand, they assume there's a good reason. This is why successful people get more opportunities than they can handle, while struggling people can't get anyone to give them a chance. Success attracts success. Strength attracts strength. Sixth, predict outcomes correctly and publicly. Nothing builds an aura of inevitability like being right about what's coming. When you consistently predict what will happen in your field or industry and those predictions come true, people start believing you have special insight or control. This requires doing your homework. Study trends. Understand patterns. Make informed predictions. And when you're right, make sure people remember you called it. Over time, people start thinking, this person sees things others don't. They're always ahead of the curve. That perception becomes powerful. 7th, never apologize for your ambition or success. The moment you seem apologetic about your power, you undermine the perception of inevitability. Own your success. Acknowledge your ambitions. Stand firmly in your power. This doesn't mean being obnoxious or rubbing success in people's faces. It means being unapologetic about your trajectory. When someone comments on your success with barely veiled criticism or tries to make you feel guilty for your ambition, don't shrink. Smile and say, yes, I've worked hard and I'm proud of what I've built. That confidence cements the perception that your success is natural and deserved. 8th, create systems and structures that outlast individual efforts. True inevitability comes when your success doesn't depend on constant personal effort. Build teams. Create processes. Develop systems that generate results even when you're not directly involved. When your success becomes systematic rather than personal, it appears truly inevitable. People think, this isn't just one person getting lucky. This is a machine that produces results. Finally, understand the paradox. Perceived inevitability requires real competence as the foundation. You can't fake your way to lasting power. The perception must be built on genuine capability. Otherwise, it collapses the first time you face real challenge. Machiavelli wasn't advocating for smoke and mirrors. He was saying that real capability combined with strategic perception creates unstoppable momentum. Do the work. Build the skills. Achieve real results. Then strategically manage how those results are perceived to create an aura of inevitability. When you master this 8th truth, something remarkable happens. Opportunities come to you. People seek you out. Resistance melts away. Not because you've forced anything, but because everyone has concluded that working with you, following you, or supporting you is the obvious choice. That's the ultimate expression of power. Not forcing your will on others, but creating conditions where others willingly align with your will because it seems inevitable. Conclusion. You've just learned Machiavelli's 8 brutal truths about how power really works in the real world. Let me summarize them quickly. Truth 1, the mask of virtue, control your image strategically. Truth 2, fear versus love, respect combined with healthy boundaries beats being liked. Truth 3, calculated cruelty, when difficult actions are necessary, act decisively. Truth 4, adaptability, rigid people break. Flexible people bend and survive. Truth 5, illusion of choice, guide people toward decisions that serve everyone. Truth 6, proximity to power, your network determines your net worth. Truth 7, timing is everything, right action at wrong time fails. Average action at right time succeeds. Truth 8, perceived inevitability, when people believe your success is inevitable, they stop resisting and start supporting. Now here's what you need to understand. This knowledge is dangerous. Not because it's evil, but because it's effective. You can use these principles to protect yourself from manipulation and build genuine influence. Or you can use them to exploit and harm others. The difference isn't in the knowledge itself. It's in your character and your intentions. Machiavelli has been misunderstood for 500 years. People think he was advocating for cruelty and deception. He wasn't. He was simply describing reality without the comfortable lies we tell ourselves. Power exists. It operates according to certain principles. You can choose to understand those principles, or you can be a victim of people who do understand them. I've given you the understanding. What you do with it is up to you. My hope is that you use this knowledge to build something meaningful. To protect yourself and the people you care about. To achieve goals that matter. To create positive change in a world that desperately needs capable, ethical leaders who understand how things actually work. Here's your challenge: choose one of these 8 truths. Just one. Commit to practicing it consciously for the next 30 days. Don't try to implement all 8 at once. Master one truth at a time. Let it become natural. Then move to the next. In 1 year, if you truly internalize these 8 principles, you will be a completely different person. More strategic. More effective. More powerful. But remember what we said at the beginning, this power comes with responsibility. Before I let you go, I need you to do 3 things. First, drop a comment telling me which of these 8 truths resonated with you most. Which one are you going to practice first? Second, if this video changed how you think about power and influence, hit that like button. It helps more people find this information. Third, and this is the most important, subscribe to Deep Psyche Coded and turn on notifications. We're building a community of strategically intelligent people who understand how the world really works and are committed to using that knowledge ethically. This channel is about going deeper than surface-level self-help. We explore the psychology, the strategy, and the uncomfortable truths that most people aren't willing to discuss. That if you want more content like this, if you want to understand human nature at the deepest level, if you want to develop genuine power that lasts, then Deep Psyche Coded is where you need to be. We're just getting started, and I promise you, the content coming next is going to challenge everything you think you know about success, power, and human behavior. Point one more thing, Machiavelli wrote The Prince over 500 years ago, but human nature hasn't changed. These principles still work because they're based on fundamental truths about how people think and behave. The leaders, entrepreneurs, and influential people who seem to effortlessly navigate complex situations. They understand these principles, whether they've read Machiavelli or not. Now you understand them too. The question is, what are you going to do with this knowledge? Until next time, stay strategic, stay ethical, and stay powerful. This is Deep Psyche Coded, where we decode the hidden patterns of human behavior. I'll see you in the next one.